Zoning Board of Appeals. The participating board members to my right, Fran McGurk to my left, Paul Billiam, my name's Carl Verana. The proceedings are being transcribed and recorded to provide full and accurate minutes and to allow full participation of the clerk. Would the clerk please, well, this is a continuation of a meeting from March, what was that date?
10th.
March 10th, from March 10th. We're looking for a Wolf Daniel. Is Mr. Daniel available? Hello?
He might be on the phone.
Well, I think he's right there. He just may be muted still.
Wolf Daniel?
Because his mic is red.
It is red.
Hello, do you hear me now?
Yes, how you
Yes.
doing, Mr. Daniel?
Okay.
All right, Mr. Daniel?
Yes?
All right, Mr. Daniel, this is Carl Verana. And as you're aware, a couple of weeks ago, you had the same matter before the Zoning Board of Appeals, and it was continued to allow you to appear. How much do you want to read? I don't want to go through the whole thing again, obviously.
Let's just go and see if he knows what
Yeah.
what he's
But,
obligated.
Mr. Daniel, what's your understanding of why you're here this evening?
Sorry, I hear, it's difficult to hear exactly what you say.
What is your understanding,
Hey.
Mr. Daniel? Can you hear me all right now?
Yes.
All right. What is your understanding of why you're here tonight, Mr. Daniel?
Oh, not really. Not really. They invite me to the meeting, but I don't know yet.
Okay.
Okay.
You understand that the house that you purchased that you're here about,
Yes.
from the information that you've submitted to this board, it appears that you want an in-law apartment permitted for your house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the in-law apartment, when you purchased the house, sir, what did
Okay.
what was explained to you, or what were you told about the in-law apartment and what had to be done to get that?
Our apartment is a kind of it's a kind of a house that you can if you want you can rent the in-law.
If you
Is that
want,
correct?
I'm sorry. If you want, you can rent the in-law. Is that what you said?
Or you can okay, I don't really understand what is in-law mean. Can you explain it to me?
Well, Mr. Daniel, this extra unit that you have in your house, and you plan
Yeah.
to occupy it, and by who is going to occupy that extra unit in your house?
Just our family. We don't want to put anybody else.
Your extended family, or is it your actual in-laws, or is it actually your children? Can you be can you narrow it down a little bit about who's going to occupy it?
My family, my wife, and my 4 kids, we are the only people living in that house.
Isn't there a second apartment there?
No, it's not really an apartment. It's a basement with 1 bedroom. It has a kitchen. It has a family room. We make the family room, and that's it.
So if it's gonna be all of your family, your direct family, then you don't need an in-law apartment, right? Because you have a one-family house and you're just gonna move in there with your family?
Yes, we're living in there.
How long ago did you move in there, Mr. Daniel?
Just 1 week.
1 week ago?
Yes.
He hadn't moved in when we had the last meeting. That was 2
Yeah,
weeks
and that
ago.
was only 2 weeks ago, so.
Okay.
Actually, the closing has been done a couple of weeks ago,
Right.
but we moved this last week.
Do you wanna explain to him the conditions that we would apply?
No, I'm gonna have Maureen do that because she's really good at that.
Okay.
Mr. Daniel, you said you and your wife and 4 kids, is that the idea?
Are they adult
Yes.
children?
How old are your kids?
My first one is 18. My second, 16. My third is 13. And the last one is 10.
It's one family.
Are there any other family members living in that extra apartment downstairs?
No, sir.
What do you use it for?
The apartment,
Yes.
so we live in it. So there is a bedroom on it that we make it our the first bedroom, the master bedroom.
So the master bedroom's going to be downstairs in the extra apartment?
It's not really another apartment.
I think,
It's the house.
Mr. and Mrs. Daniel, I think one of the reasons why we're having a little bit of maybe a communication breakdown is it seems that your house, you don't need this permit.
Yes.
You have one normal family, a husband, a wife, 4 kids, living in a house. And it's wonderful. I mean, and so you're coming before us for a permit to do something that you don't need because you have every right to sleep in whatever bedroom in your own home that you like. Now, the reason that you would come back to us for this is say one of your parents gets ill and needs to move in with you, and you want to cordon off that basement as an in-law apartment and have your in-laws come live with you. That's the nature of this type of relief. But right now,
maybe. No. There's no separate apartment,
right?
and we didn't ask for that.
Okay, that's perfect. It doesn't seem like you even need this. So I mean, I think we're just all chasing our tails here for something that you don't need, and
You've applied for something that you don't need,
I mean you
and you don't qualify for it, but you don't need it.
yeah, you don't
anyhow.
call, I mean, ultimately this makes it kind of a moot point. But welcome to Raynham, and I hope you enjoy your house.
One house with an extra bedroom and a couple of extra exits.
I mean,
Can you explain that? So what else that I asked for?
well, it's not so much that you asked for it. You were party. You signed the application with the people who sold you the house, who I guess
Okay.
as a part of the sale had agreed to apply for the in-law apartment, or had advertised they would, whatever, I don't know how that came about.
Well, it probably popped up in that they had an in-law that isn't permitted. So
Right.
once they tried to pass
And they're
on
trying to
their
clear it up, right?
unpermitted, they tried to
Right.
get
For whatever
paid
reason.
for
I
an
think
application that
I
didn't
should
need
talk
it.
to the attorney or the seller.
Ideally, do you want to withdraw without prejudice and just, if you need this, ask again at some time in the future. You can talk to the seller at your leisure, but it doesn't seem like you either A, qualify, or B, need the relief that's been asked for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you're going to enjoy your house the way it is.
Exactly.
This is it. I'm gonna withdraw it.
So our recommendation is that you withdraw this application. That way we don't have to deny it. And then if
Okay.
you need to resubmit it, then it's just a resubmittal of a prior application. It's a little easier for you.
Mr. Daniel, at some point, if your son or your daughter comes along and gets married and wants to move into the separate apartment in your house, then you need to come back in, because now you have two families living in there. Do you understand that? Hello?
Hey.
In other words, as long as you
What?
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna need to talk to them about talk to the seller about.
No, you don't need.
I don't
about
think
that.
you need to.
You don't need
I
to,
think
you
you're
don't
fine.
Need to, you don't need to talk to anybody.
You're all set.
fine. Okay. We're gonna agree to let you withdraw your petition without prejudice, so you can bring it back up anytime you need to. Okay. And you can go
Oh,
ahead.
okay.
All right. And you go ahead and enjoy your house and enjoy your kids, and then somewhere down the road, if one of your kids gets married and wants a separate place to live, you can let them live down there and come back in at that point to see us, okay?
Oh, now I understand.
All right, good, I'm glad. Okay, so I'm gonna,
Thanks for your time and effort.
huh?
I move that we accept the withdrawal.
Yeah.
Move, second, vote,
Aye.
vote, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Daniel, the board has voted unanimously to allow you to withdraw the petition without prejudice. And what that means simply is that if sometime in the future, one of your kids, or you and your wife for that matter, want to move into the apartment downstairs, you can do so by coming back before this board, and we'll give you permission at that time when you need it. Do you understand that?
Oh,
All
okay.
right. All right,
Yeah.
so you're all set. Enjoy your house. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Take care now. Bye-bye.
All right.
Got it. Got it.
Oh, can you guys, they have to approve the minutes.
Okay. Anything else we need, Maureen?
Just to close it out.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Hallelujah. Okay.
Good evening. I'd like to open the Raynham Board of Appeals public hearing. My name is Peter. My name is Peter Shondek. To my right is Barrett Johnson, and to my left, Associate Member Paul Boulot. The proceedings are being transcribed and recorded to provide full and accurate minutes and allow full participation of the clerk. I'll call this continuous meeting at 7:32. And we are continuing a petition from January 27th for Raynham Riverwalk LLC. Is there anyone, well, I can see, but anyone present representing Raynham Riverwalk?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you can hear and see me, Peter Freeman.
Yes, we can.
I can't see any of the board members or anybody else. It would be nicer if I can. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm certainly ready to proceed.
We'll check with the technician.
Michael Hale on the Raynham Channel for the minutes. On your computer, sir, you can't see all the cameras?
If I what, sorry?
On your computer, you should be able to see all the cameras.
No, all I see is, I see the participant symbol, but that just gives me the names. I see the camera window, but that's just for me apparently.
If you go to the top of your screen, if you go to the top of the screen.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I have it now. There was a button that said all. I never saw that. Okay, great. All right, thank you. Good instructions. Appreciate it.
He's the best.
So, in addition to myself, I'm a dinosaur, so thank you. So in any event, again, Peter Freeman, Freeman Law Group, representing the applicant, and with me tonight from my law firm is Alana Quirk. I think you met her at the brief previous hearing. And then we have the applicant principals, Dan Andrade, and we have our project engineer, Evan Watson, with us, and also our traffic engineer, Andy Arsenault from Vanas and Associates, and the gentleman, an expert who prepared that, Jeffrey Dirk, wasn't able to be here tonight, but we thought we would have Andy here. So what we would like to do, and we do understand that unfortunately the peer review of both traffic and stormwater engineering has not been completed. We understand it'll be completed next week, which is great. But, you know, there have been some updates, including the traffic report. So what we would like to do is to have Evan Watson present the changes, which also relate in some ways to recommendations from the our traffic expert. I give a description, and he can presumably screen share so you can see the plans. And then we'll have Andy give a short presentation without your peer review. We, think that we don't want to be redundant the next time, but just a short summary, and that might give you the opportunity to ask any questions if you have any. And then the only other thing that we think will be helpful tonight, and that we're happy to, answer any questions you have, would be to explain the status of where we're at with the water and sewer districts and departments, because that was the last time I was here. That was something that you wanted us to talk to them and try to work things out, and we've made very substantial progress. My of-counsel, Alana Quirk, really carried the ball for us on that, so when we get to that point, I'll let her give you the explanation. So if that's okay, Mr. Chairman, shall we proceed with Mr. Watson?
That's fine. I just have one question. Do I have to have them all take the oath, or have they?
I don't know if they've all been sworn in, so.
All right. I just, for anybody that's going to appear tonight or give any updates, I just have to swear you in. So for all you who are going to participate, all who intend to give testimony, please rise. Do you solemnly swear to tell that the testimony you are about to give this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
I do.
Okay. And then when you present, like you did, Peter, just give us your name so for the minutes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Evan Watson with W Engineering, representing the applicants as well. I'm the engineer that drew up the design plans that were submitted. I have a little presentation here just to kind of summarize the work that we've done. So when we first initially submitted the plans to you, we essentially followed the comprehensive permit regulations, which were to present to you in a general manner the proposed buildings, the layout, drainage in a general manner, access points, etc. During that meeting, we received some input from the board members and from some of the other agencies in town, and also we had a review by our traffic consultant who had some recommendations as well. So tonight, I'll basically step through the updates that we've done to the design drawings. I'll hand it over to Andrew so he can go over some of the highlights of his report. And then Elaine will go over some of the information that we received from the utility department. And if the board has any outstanding questions, obviously we'd be happy to answer any of those. So first thing that we did We have a plan here. Let me just bear with me one moment. So the board had asked us to add some additional parking spots. In addition to every unit has a garage and a driveway which has 2 parking spots on it. But we did add additional parking spots. So if you look at the project, it's more or less divided into multiple neighborhoods. So in each zone, we were able to add some parking spots for those zones. So we have 8 parking spots here in the front. We come into this zone here. We have 10, 14 spaces here. At the end of this cul-de-sac, I believe there's about 8 spaces at the end here. We have another 2, 4, 6, 8 in the midst of these units. We have 3 parking spaces here, but we also have the 11 parking spaces at the end here. So we added those 44 parking spaces. The other thing we did is we added a lot of pedestrian circulation. So we have a 5-foot sidewalk that goes from Route 44. Not that we would suggest people walk on 44, but it's good to plan for the future. So we have a sidewalk that runs all the way down through the site out to Church Street. When we get into this zone here, we actually put sidewalks on both sides. This is where, somewhere in this zone, we would propose the mail kiosk. And now it's shown here. And then this road has the sidewalk. And then I didn't highlight it in yellow, but there's a sidewalk that runs through here all the way out to the amenities area and the trash. That brings me to one of the other things that we did, or a recommendation of the board, is we relocated the trash. It used to be out behind some of the existing residential units here, but we relocated it so it was as far away from all the residential properties as possible. And we have some parking here so people can bring their trash and not get anybody's way and cause congestion. We also added 9 fire hydrants throughout the site. I think the board asked to have a full set of plans prepared. There we go. So again, the comprehensive permit requires that we show all of our design components in a general manner, but we've gone a step beyond that and we've developed these plans. So we have an index plan. We've gone through and shown all the widths of the roads, the depths of the driveways, the interrelationship of the buildings and the setbacks to the property lines, the parking counts, all the types of things that you would normally see on a complete subdivision plan or a site plan review for a commercial site. Here we have a set of utility plans, so we show that we have our sewer, gas, and water coming in off of Church Street. We chose a location for all our sewer pumps, hydrants, and basically just designed the entire site in much greater detail than is required. The last thing that we did, we were asked to do a drainage design. So if you recall, this site was actually approved under a separate filing by Conservation Commission and but not by the planning board. But that drainage design was reviewed and accepted, and we essentially took that same methodology, that analysis, and updated it with the new design. And so with that, I'm sorry. Oh, maybe somebody just sneezed. Excuse me. So we added a few, we designed all the piping. We have rims and inverts on all the pipes. We have first offender water quality units before the discharge of every flared end to make sure the water is nice and clean. And if you take a look, we've also done grading around all the units, throughout all the roadways, throughout the entire site. So we've managed to actually submit a complete set of design plans. We have our detention basin out here, and we've relocated the the piping that comes in off of off of Route 44. Get back to my slides here. So the applicant met with the sewer department. I believe there's a letter that's come out from them. I believe Alana will be going over that with you. There was also multiple meetings with the water department. The result of that is we received a vote in favor of the project, subject to some conditions, which Elena will go through. And with that review, the fire department also chimed in and asked for a couple things there. We've committed to have basically fire protection in every unit sprinkled. And in addition to that, we'll have hydrants that are spaced less than 700 feet apart. So they were happy to see that as well. So soon you're going to hear a kind of a little review from our traffic consultant, Vanessa. And in that report, he had a couple recommendations as well. So with that, we've made some updates to our plans. We've made sure that all the roadways are at least, all the two-way roadways are at least 24 feet in width. The original plans had a couple spots that were 22 on the smaller roads. We've increased it all to 24 feet. Let me put it on the color plan here. The one-way roads, we have 20-foot accessible during emergencies, so we have a 15-foot wide traveled way, and then immediately adjacent to it, we have a 5-foot wide sidewalk. So if there was some thing in the way, we'd be able to drive around. And there's no hydrants in the sidewalk or anything. All the hydrants were able to be put into the median, so that should suffice there. All the main roads were designed to accommodate a WB-50 trailer truck, so which is bigger than the largest apparatus the fire department has. So you'd be able to drive a trailer right through here, which I'm sure will help out for construction time and everything. We'll bring materials in. They also recommended that we add sidewalks throughout the project, so we went through that. But they also had a recommendation on the lengths of the driveways. So where there was a driveway along the traveled way, the recommendation was that we had 24 feet of pavement and 23 feet of driveway. So that would be an area such as this. And an area that has a sidewalk going through it such as this, we would do 21 feet of driveway, but that also adds on an extra 5 feet for the sidewalk. So you could park here and still walk straight by there without a problem. He also had a comment to put some signage at the intersection. So of course we would commit to doing that. We would most likely ask them for their recommendations on what type of sign, striping, all that type of thing as appropriate. And then of course at the end of all the sidewalk terminations, we'd have ADA compliant ramps wherever they cross the traveled way with the technical strips and things like that. So we'd make sure that was squared away. And of course, this site will have a property manager, property management associated with it, secure the grounds and all that, and that would also include the management of snow. So they want to make sure that if snow got around these areas that blocked site visibility, that would be taken care of. So that will certainly be squared away with the property management. And lastly, I just wanted to bring up a couple points to the board about what this comprehensive permit is really doing here. And maybe Alana might have a little thing to say about this as well, but we're essentially going through the town standards and issue a comprehensive permit to allow this site. But that doesn't, the issuance of this permit does not give us we don't start construction tomorrow. We still need a notice of intent. We need to update that. We have a notice of intent, but we need to update it with the current project. And with that, we need to demonstrate that we meet all the stormwater standards from the state. and that it's technically sound through an engineering review with them. We also have a Mass Highway access permit, or Mass DOT, sorry, showing my age, I guess, where that permit would need to be updated with the new traffic counts. And I believe there might be some information that Andrew was going to give you where we might talk about upgrading some of the signalization at 44. So that will be reviewed there as well. And then because we have a state permit, mainly the highway curb cut permit, and we trip some of the thresholds for review, we will have to file a ENF, or environmental notification form, with the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. So that process basically sends the fully completed design plans out to all the different state agencies for their input to go through there. And then once we're through with all those reviews, we don't expect there to be any major changes, but the board would certainly be kept abreast of any updates to the plan or anything that has taken place, and if anything needs to be modified, we would certainly do it at that time. So I'll put it back on the plan, or if Andrew, I don't know if you want to share your screen for any reason, or if you want me to put up your report on my screen.
Actually, I made a little slide deck, if I may share my screen.
I think they're working on it.
Thank you very much. So, I'm sorry, bear with me one moment. There we go. Is that coming through for everyone?
A little
Yep.
big.
It's off-center.
Little off center and a little big. We only see half.
Is it? I'm sorry about that.
No,
This
that's
is
okay.
giving me a hard time.
It actually was easier to read when you were sharing it with it unopened.
With it unopened? All right, I'll see if I can get back to that.
You usually have to unshare and reshare.
There we go. Is this easier for everyone?
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. My apologies for that, I'm sorry. My name is Andrew Arsenault, and I'm representing Benass and Associates. We performed the transportation impact assessment for the project, and tonight I just wanted to give a brief overview of this report's findings. I'll keep from getting too far deep into the technical aspects, understanding that the independent peer review will be forthcoming. In brief, the report was prepared to statewide and industry standards for the preparation of those reports. We collected the traffic volume data in December of last year, and we adjusted the volumes upwards using a procedure developed by MassDOT very early on during the pandemic itself. As far as our general findings, we noted that operationally, the project itself would not produce a significant impact on operations, acknowledging the constraints at the Route 44 and Church Street intersection that occur independent of the project. We did not observe any safety deficiencies within the study area, and the available lines of sight at the proposed driveway locations were adequate to exceed the required minimums for both safe and efficient operations. Just to familiarize everyone and situate ourselves, here's the project site and the immediate study area. We have Route 44 to the north, Church Street to the west, and the river to the east. As far as existing conditions, the Route 44 Church Street intersection is signalized. It offers one approach on each leg. generally 13 feet wide, but a bit narrower along the Church Street northbound approach at 11 feet. Church at Dean is unsignalized, with Church providing a fairly generous 18-foot wide travel lane in both directions, and Dean Street providing a 10-foot wide approach lane. There are no sidewalks within the study area, and there were no defined bicycle facilities, although the majority of the lanes offer enough width to accommodate both cyclists and motorists sharing the roadway. As far as the specific development itself, we used an estimating procedure developed by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and we estimated a little over 1,000 vehicles over the course of an average weekday, with 65 occurring during the weekday morning peak hour, which we found to be between 7:30 and 8:30, and 79 during the weekday evening peak hour, 4 to 5 p.m. As far as where those trips are going, we estimated their destinations based on both a review of the U.S. Census employment data for Raynham and a general overview of the major outlying roadway network itself. I think it's fair to say, as would be expected, the strong majority of traffic is focused along the Route 44 corridor, heading in either direction to either 495 or Route 24, with the bulk of the rest utilizing Church Street and a little bit traveling down Dean. Now, as far as our recommendations, I took an abbreviated cut of the recommendations that we presented in our report, and Evan did a great job just touching base on some of the site ones. The site access recommendations are more general and typical to pretty much any site that we see. The first two that I pulled up here focused on the minimum widths, and while they do benefit the motorists, the most important thing that we looked out for was making sure that they were wide enough for the fire department and any emergency vehicle to access them. We also wanted to see a pedestrian accommodation within the site extending out to either roadway in the event that a sidewalk does get constructed in the future along either of those two roads. It's better to put it in now than to try to find the room to squeeze that in later. And we also, Evan brought this up, we also recommended a minimum setback of 21 feet from the garage door to the back of a sidewalk and 23 feet from the back edge of a traveled way where there is no sidewalk present. That just helps to allow any parking that may occur in front of the driveway, in front of the garage itself. I know a lot of people use their garages for storage, so we don't want to close off. We don't want to lose a parking space that way. As I mentioned, these recommendations are really universal to very typical projects. The plans themselves, when we first saw them, were in line with the strong majority of our suggestions. And as far as the site-specific recommendations, as noted, we predicted some delays at the Route 44 and Church Street signal under both existing and the projected future conditions without the project, what we call the no-build condition. We are recommending that we retime the intersection 6 months after the occupancy of the project. We actually prefer to do it after occupancy to ensure that we're capturing the real-world impacts of how this project is going to interact with the roadway network itself. It sounds a bit counterintuitive, but it's actually better to fix the timing after the fact than to try and guess the future at an existing signal. And the last recommendation really focused on the installation of a transportation demand management plan, which is just something that aims to eliminate or reduce trips from even happening in the first place. There are some limited transit opportunities within the area, and for the ones that do exist, we'd like to ensure that the residents are both made aware of them and they have every opportunity to take advantage of those programs. With that, that's going to conclude my brief rundown. I will be available for any questions.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you can hear me, again, Peter Freeman, unless you want to have questions of either of the presenters to date, if not, and again, we can do it afterwards, I will turn it over to Elena Quirk to update you on the status with water and sewer.
Okay, just a quick question on the traffic was when they adjusted the signals at Church Street, it said after occupancy, after like what percent of occupancy? Like 50%, 70%? You know, or are you going to wait till 100%? I'm just wondering, because it might be a while before it's 100%, but it would still impact the traffic.
No, absolutely, and it's sort of we can work with the board.
Okay.
Typically 75%.
Okay.
Like that to really get an idea, but it's all It depends on the site, and we can work with you at a number that works for both. You just don't want to do it too far ahead of time and
Right.
have everything based on theoretical.
Right, you don't want to have to do it three or four times. I understand that.
Absolutely. You really end up chasing your tail.
Yeah. And I do like the fact that you did add those parking spots in the middle. That's also going to be beneficial for, like, with all the deliveries now with Amazon and, all the delivery trucks coming to houses. They'll be able to park in the middle there instead of on a road and blocking traffic. So those some good additions there. You have anyone else? Anything
One
so
question
far?
I had was, where you took your traffic data based on December, in the, height of, this is the best traffic year I've ever encountered in Massachusetts in my adult life. I commute every day.
Or work.
Well, depending on who's
For us.
it's got to be difficult for what you do. But I know even 24, which is normally horrible, is been a breeze. So how do you evaluate and correlate December numbers to what's actually going to be real the second we're back to actual life? Do you correlate those with prior projects on 44 down the road, or what is it? Is there a multiplier? Or?
Well, there's actually two things. So for the December, we seasonally adjust everything up. And actually, if you look at the trend of traffic throughout the year, if you looked at it, it's actually kind of backwards from what most people think. In the summer, that's when it's at its highest. Traffic is bumper to bumper. Everybody thinks it's the schools. It's really vacationers. There's a lot of factors, but everything we bring up from about October, November through around now, early April, we actually bump that up to a theoretical average month condition. And there's a bunch of ways to do it. There's a bunch of permanent count stations that Mass DOT operates, and you can look at historical data. It really does fall in the same trend. So for the December, to answer your question, we bring it up to an average month. On top of that, we look at those same continuous count stations, and we went back to 2019 for this project. Actually, if you bear with me, I can just pull up my report and check the exact station that we used. And what we would do is kind of the same idea. We looked at what it was in 2019, December of 2019, compared that to December of 2020, and we were actually 18% below what we would expect conditions to be, which was generally in line with the statewide, numbers that were coming up for COVID around the later part of the year, around 20.
Okay. That makes sense.
Anything else? No, okay. All right, that's great that you get that information in there. So you can probably proceed with your next presenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Ilana is on by audio, by the phone, not video. You also received, although Ilana will explain it, but you received letters from the sewer department and the water district. And I don't know if it's necessary to screen share those. I can't do it, but I don't know if anybody wants to.
We have copies,
it makes
so
sense.
we have copies, so we can follow
I'm
along.
sorry?
We have copies, so we can follow along.
That's fine, because Ilana is not going to go through those letters point by point. It's more of a summary and conclude with, I believe, one thing that we are still asking from you folks. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ilana. Hopefully.
I think she's muted. Shows red.
Ilana, can you unmute?
I think he has to do it.
Mike?
Mike?
would you be able to unmute her, or
Because she's on a phone line.
Ilana?
Ilana?
Tell her to hit *6.
Have her hit *6?
*6. Okay, I'm doing that now.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm
Can you hear me
sorry.
now?
great, beautiful. There you go. Thank you.
I was not muted on my end, but the *6 somehow worked. So my topic tonight, obviously, is are the recommended fees by the Board of Sewer Commissioners and the Center Water District. And there's one threshold fact that I want to emphasize to the ZBA before I begin talking about it, which is that installing the water infrastructure and the sewer infrastructure obviously will be a very expensive undertaking, and that undertaking and that expense will be entirely on the shoulders of the developer. And Mr. Andrews is the one who will be paying for all of the materials and the labor to install the water main and the sewer main and all the related accoutrements, the meters and so forth. He will pay for all of that. And so the charges that we're talking about tonight are the charges that the Water Commission and the Water District and the Sewer Commission normally charge when a developer does all the work itself. And so we went and met with the Sewer Commission in December and January and went over their normal fees and had a discussion about when a charge is a fee versus when it is a tax. And that may be something that the ZBA is familiar with. There's case law that goes back for almost 40 years, the Anderson College case versus the City of Boston, which specifically provides that in order for a charge to be a lawful fee rather than an unlawful tax, it has to be paid by choice, which this clearly is because there's not a requirement to develop. So that's fine. That part of the test is absolutely met. Then there are two more tests, which is that the charge has to be of particular benefit to the regulated party, and it can't be to raise revenue. It has to be only for the purpose of compensating the governmental entity involved for granting the relief. And so as we went back and forth with the Sewer Commission, we had, obviously a serious discussion about what some of the charges were and whether they were indeed a fee, some of them, or whether they were a tax. And in the end, after 2 sessions, we reached a place where the developer was satisfied that recommendation that was being offered by the Sewer Commission to the ZBA was not unreasonable. And you have that letter before you this evening. It's dated January 26, 2021, and it's in the amount of a recommended fee charge of $367,000, $367,500. And so that is appropriate from the developer's perspective. And then the developer went to the Center Water District and had essentially the same series of conversations. We met with the Center Water District commissioners 3 times in February and twice this month, including most recently on Monday. We had the same discussion about the difference between a lawful charge that is a proper fee because it's for the expenses of the district as opposed to trying to raise revenue to pay for either past infrastructure that's already in place or to pay for new infrastructure that hasn't yet been identified. And as we went back and forth, the Water District came up with a fee of $245,180, and part of that is clearly a fee, a lawful fee that is allowed because it relates to reviewing the design of the project and for inspecting the work that is ultimately done. And that's about $40,000 of that fee. But the rest of the charge, $206,000 of the charge, is something that is distributed by the developer. So we want to put that before the ZBA this evening because that $206,000 charge is for a a capital infrastructure improvement charge to essentially help to repay the district for infrastructure that was already installed and paid for, and for future infrastructure that it may be required due to a need that it has in the future to add new improvements. And so those improvements, though, have not yet been identified. And the $206,000 fee dates back to a charge that was established in 2002. So it's been out there for almost 20 years. And so it does not relate to any assessment of some particular new infrastructure that is necessary in order to increase capacity. Certainly, if that were the case, then it would be a lawful fee. Without doubt it would be, if they had identified, look, we don't have enough capacity. In order for us to get enough capacity, we've determined that we need to add new infrastructure, and we've determined here's what it's going to cost. And for them to pass back that specific charge to new connecting parties, that's perfectly permissible under the police law. But that's not what this is. And so we had the conversation, as I say, with the college, and when we met for the final time this past Sunday, they indicated that they had reviewed everything, but they felt strongly that they wanted to collect this $206,000. And so we would ask the ZBA not to increase that charge.
You're kind of muffling. I missed that last part. You were muffled a little.
Okay. We would ask the ZBA not impose that $206,000 charge, and that you only impose $40,000 of the recommended fee. And certainly, I can provide you with case law, we can send it along to your attorney, have your attorney look at it. I'd be happy to do that if the ZBA thinks that that would be appropriate. We'd be happy to do that. Just the case law, we think is very clear on these points.
Thanks, Alana. So really that concludes our presentations that we described, said we would do, and certainly we're still around through cyberspace and happy to answer any other questions or anything else.
Before Alana,
Go ahead.
Before Alana mutes off or anything, just a couple questions about the legal presentation there. With regard to the 204 that you're requesting 206, I'm sorry, additional relief on. Now, if that capital improvement fee is to ensure the said capacity that now the 100 and some odd units are going to drain from the system, isn't that the same thing as a lawful fee, or is your position that
No.
still is not?
No, it's our position that it is not, because the fee was established in 2002. There's a very specific case out there that we provided to the Center Water District called Windsor Court versus Linfield Water District, a 2014 case. And in that particular situation, what had happened was Linfield was basically out of capacity for water. And so they had studies that showed that they were out of capacity, for water. And so what they did was they went out and they researched, well, what would we have to do in order to allow new people to connect to our system? And so they determined that they needed a new water main, which was very expensive, and that they needed a new connection to the MWRA, also expensive to buy in. So they determined what those costs would be, and based upon those costs and the fact that it was necessary for those costs to happen in order for new parties to connect, they put together, promulgated, and adopted a new system fee, for new users to come in that related to those specific improvements that were necessary to increase capacity. So there was an appeal, and the developer said, well, everybody benefits from this. And what the court said was, no, this is really to create new capacity. It's well documented based upon the studies that have been done, and it's very particularized to the improvements that are necessary to create that new capacity. But that's not what we have here, not at all. What we have here is a 2002 infrastructure and capital improvement fee. It's 19, almost 20 years old, does not relate to creating new capacity. It's just not designed to do that at all. And so
I suppose
believe
my
that
question-
what would happen with,
Maybe my question's
Sure.
not stated right. So would the town of Raynham, by that argument, have to go out, perform a study, establish what the burden would be applied just by this particular subdivision for the number applied to be appropriate, in your opinion? Is that what, because,
no, not particular to this particular development. It would be a system-wide thing. They would do a study to say how much water capacity do we have and are we running out? And yes, we've determined that we're running out, and in order for anyone new to connect, this is what it's going to cost us, either to build a new, dig a new well, or to connect to, another, town system, or to the MWRA, whatever it might be, figure out what those charges are, and then the fee would be based upon what that expense would be, and it would be for anyone new who came in would have to pay that fee, but it wouldn't be specific to a particular development.
well, I mean, when I say specific, I mean, because obviously one house tying in has a certain demand load, 135 is a different demand load. It's going to have a different impact on our overall infrastructure, and whether or not we can handle one new house or 200 new houses or 1,000 new houses, those are different questions. So that's really where I didn't mean specifically Riverwalk versus, Bill's development versus Mike's development. That's not what I was trying to suggest.
Okay, I understand your point, and that's a great question. And so really, though, what would happen is that there would be a determination, hey, we don't have enough capacity, here's what we have to do to get more capacity. And then when one single family came in to connect, obviously their charge would be, 1/100th of what someone else would pay if they had 100 units.
Right.
So it would be appropriately.
Right.
Yeah, and they haven't indicated that capacity or any capacity problem.
No, they've not indicated any capacity problem.
Okay, any other questions, or?
I do think it would be wise if you would forward those case law so that town council can see that. Because I just think.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. You can send that to Ted tomorrow and tell him that you've asked for his review and that he should be in touch with you.
Yeah, we'll be contacting town council anyway, so yeah, it would be good for him to have the documents so that he'll have an idea of what we're asking about.
Very good. We'll send them right along.
Thank you. So, any other questions, or?
Make a motion, we continue until the peer reviews.
Well, is anyone else going to present or have any other?
Peter, I'd like to just add a couple of things.
Yeah,
Okay.
identify yourself, please, Dan.
Yep, my name is Dan Andres, and I am the owner-manager of Raynham Riverwalk LLC. I did present the project to the Board of Selectmen about 3 weeks ago. They asked me to come in to give them an overview of the project, and I did that. I do believe you should have a signed letter of the support from the Selectmen in your packet.
I don't have that.
No, I don't.
One item that you don't have that?
No.
Not yet.
Okay, well, that was supposed to be sent over. Graham has that paperwork. It was supposed to send that over to Maureen as of last night. So you will have a letter available for review that the Board of Selectmen agreed to support the project, and they felt that the housing was definitely a need for Raynham. And one of the comments that came out of the discussion that we had was that Raynham residents be chosen out of the 35 units of moderate income units that we have. And the good thing is that we do get to, work off of the list and from the state, working with the state. But it does say that we can choose from Raynham and surrounding towns. So we would start in that process first, because there are, just since my being on the camera with the selectmen 3 weeks ago, I probably had 8 calls wanting, their son or a couple daughters wanted to be able to find out how to get on the list to qualify for the moderate income housing. So I think we have a definite need, and that was one thing that I did agree with the selectmen, that I'll do everything in my power to work with local residents first, and working through the state to make sure that we can support the local people. So that was with the selectmen, and I did have an updated letter. I have 3 more direct abutters that I was able to get on to sign. Our original hearing, we presented a letter that had probably 16 signatures, and we have 19 total signatures of abutters of the project who are all in support of the project. And as I mentioned from day one, the only one abutter who did not sign was the one where the dumpster was located mostly behind his house, Mr. Thomas's, and we did relocate the dumpster. So I do have, support from all our abutters. So those are the only updated letters that you should have or will have coming up.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Anyone else want to contribute, or are all the presentations finished?
We're done with the presentations. Thank you.
Okay. So we do have to wait for our peer review, and do we have a motion to make a continuance?
I'd make a motion we continue until our peer review comes in and we can
Okay.
go over it.
I'm looking at, what's this, March?
If I could add just one final thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
If the board could stay on top of peer review, only because we do have time constraints, and I know with the 55 and older project that I was working with, it took them over 4 months working back and forth, and we just don't have that convenient. We still have a long process to go to get through to the end of getting our permits, being able to get permits. So I know with what they have to review, we hired one of the best traffic analysis out there, so the review of the traffic really shouldn't be that big of a deal. And with the drainage, we still have to go to DEP and Conservation, who they will be doing, ASA will be doing the review on all that, any added calculations. So it's almost like a double. The JP engineer did contact my engineer, Evan, just to say that he wasn't sure about the extent of his review for drainage, seeing that Conservation will be doing the review, and he almost felt that it would be worth waiting for Conservation's opinion or review, put in his final comments. So I just don't want this to fall through the cracks and be down the road another few months. That's all I ask, is if we can just stay on top of that and follow through with that.
Sounds like they're gonna be done sometime next week, based on their own estimates. But with regard to holding off drainage review for Conservation, we have to review things independent of them, although we'll be, partners de facto, but we have to look at everything that goes before us and make our, independently of not relying on them doing their job appropriately down the line, other than we have to account on that, but we have to do our job first. So that's why I'm
Yes.
glad that Evan gave us.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And Mr. Churchill has indicated he'd be finished next week, and he should review exactly as you just stated the engineering, stormwater rather, as well as the traffic, and then whatever happens at Concom, can happen. Whoever they use to review, but we need it to get done so that you have that information as you said. So thank you for that.
Okay. So, looking at the calendar, I know I'm not available. I want to give at least, I don't want to say next week because you want to make sure.
Oh, we won't necessarily even have it next week.
Yeah, we won't even have it next week, the week after. I think you are not available.
Not available.
Okay, and I'm not the 21st, so the earliest would be the 28th. Is the 28th good for you guys, or? Okay.
My schedule.
Yeah, that works for my calendar.
So the 28th sounds like
28th.
it's what makes most sense.
Of April?
And that should give us a couple weeks for us to digest
Right.
everything between digesting these and then digesting the counterpoint.
And it gives council enough time to review.
To review some of
Yeah,
it too.
because the legal part could be a little
Mhm. So
cumbersome.
you want
as
to
we all know.
make a
I
motion?
make a motion, we continue to April 28th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So we'll continue the hearing until April 28th, 2021. That's a Wednesday. 7 p.m., yeah. Hopefully we'll be first this time.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
so thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much for all your hard work and your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Have a good night.
So we also have to accept the minutes, right? All right, so I need a motion
to accept the minutes as written.
of January 27, 2021.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So, leave that. Meeting for the Raynham zoning, Board of Appeals is going to conclude at, wow, that's 8:27. Make a motion to,
Make a motion, we close meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is closed.